One of the advantages of living in a relatively small and homogeneous city is the chances of a great big riot breaking out where people are racing around town claiming there's injustice, but instead trying to find justice by looting drugstores and burning down private businesses and looting the NASCAR Hall of Fame and looting the NBA store so you can steal Air Jordans. Trying to burn white people to death or beat up white people you pull out of cars driving through town. It doesn't happen here. It does happen, though, in some of the larger cities in America, including Charlotte, North Carolina, which I have one of my former radio general managers lives there and says it's a beautiful place. He loves the city. He's been there a number of years, and I don't think he would like to live anywhere else. However, what's going on there right now over the last couple of days, clearly another sign as we head toward Election Day that many of the policies we've been told need to be put in place in this country by the Democrats, that these have been abysmal failures. And I was thinking about that today. I was born, John Kennedy was the president. Shortly thereafterward, Lyndon Johnson took over. My parents go all the way back to Franklin Roosevelt. We have had an experiment in socialism in this country with government programs just left and right, replete with government programs to try and deal with all of these issues. In other words, let's go throw some more money at it is government's response when you ever have a complaint or a situation that arises. You know what's going to happen in Charlotte? They'll bring in a blue ribbon committee, and then they'll spend 8 to 18 months discussing what needs to be done. They'll sit around at a lot of functions in hotel ballrooms paid for by taxpayers and drink the orange juice and eat the bagels and the salad that's provided by the taxpayers. Then they'll issue a report with all sorts of warnings, and people will wring their hands, and the cameras will come in, and everyone will make pronouncements and issue bromides about what needs to be done. And wouldn't it be nice if we could all sit down, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya together?
Kumbaya, Lord,
Or as Rodney
Kumbaya.
King once said, can't we all just get along? Rodney King, by the way, did not necessarily favor the discount shopping that took place after his beating and then later the acquittal of the police officers involved with it. He was even a little alarmed by that himself. And I bring this up because these people who are roaming around Charlotte, and here's what's happened in just the last 48 hours. One white person was nearly burned to death. Demonstrators tried to burn him by throwing him into a fire. A white motorist was dragged and beaten, begging for his life. The NASCAR Hall of Fame was looted. The Charlotte Hornets NBA store was looted, people running in and grabbing all of the Air Jordan sneakers. Because, you see, that's what justice is really all about. Now, the guy who was shot and killed, Charlotte police have already said video shows he had a gun. Now, when police say put that gun down and you don't, see, it's not in the job description of law enforcers to go to work and get killed every day. If that happened and they all got killed on one day, there would be nobody left to come back and do the job tomorrow. So when someone does something that could be threatening and disobeys what you're trying to tell them, they're the ones who could end up dead. Now, the people on the streets are screaming about this. They haven't seen the video. I guess they demand that it has to be there immediately. Well, that's the problem with investigations. They take time and they are painstaking to get it right. That is no excuse for discount shopping or trying to burn your neighbors or stealing all of the shoes you can find. I'll never forget the picture in Baltimore when that one broke out last year. The CVS grocery store or drugstore is burning down and people are running from it with bales of toilet paper and paper towels, and you're scratching your head and you're thinking, how does this have anything to do with a call for justice? Or do they feel this is their reparations check? This is their payment. Somehow it's owed to them. And again, the federal government, going all the way back to the New Deal and Franklin Roosevelt, has created program after program after program to take money from taxpayers or to create money out of thin air, fiat currency, spend money we don't have, and turn around and throw it at problems. Nobody would starve in this country, to my knowledge, by choice, because you can always go down to the county office and get that EBT card. So there's always a safety net that's provided, which is unlike any other country in the world. I had a friend I worked with. He was an engineer at a TV station that I worked at in the late 1990s, and he was a native of Nigeria. Great guy. One day we had to go to a conference together, and while we were traveling, he started complaining about black people in America. Abiodun, he was a black man. And yet he said, nobody seems to realize here what opportunities await them. Instead of going out and looting and always complaining and waiting for someone to come and give you something, maybe you should try to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and actually accomplish something in life. Is that so difficult for people to try and do? Now, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, even Donald Trump yesterday criticized the police officer there, saying that she shot and should not have shot the man because he had his hands up. However, I'm guessing Trump has only seen the one video that he apparently said that he referenced. But there is an aerial video, because often in these big cities, you have choppers that are flying around, and the aerial video shows this guy actually does lower his arms. What is she supposed to do in that situation? Wait for him? No, oh, well, he was unarmed. But she doesn't know that. What part of this does not get through people's noggins? She doesn't know that. Is she supposed to wait there and take the bullet herself because, well, I need to determine? It doesn't work that way. And if she gets killed, again, she will not be there the next day to perhaps save somebody else's life. It's 8:13 this morning. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com, and it's 55. Here's some sounds from the streets of Charlotte. Listen to these people explain why they think that they are entitled to go out and burn the city down.
I could be at work, at school, in my car. I can still get shot by the police.
You got a brother lying in the street dead. Where's the damn video at?
We're still here because of the fact is that police do not understand yet to this day that people, they have to stand up for what they believe in.
Don't point a gun at them, for crying out loud. Why can't you get that through your noggins? They didn't kill Nelson Mandela. They killed a criminal. There's a huge difference there, folks. And to try to anoint everyone who gets shot and killed in one of these situations as being some sort of civil rights hero, most of these people have rap sheets that are 3 miles long. If that's how twisted your culture has become, here's another thing to remember. You're not seeing any of the big race hustlers in Charlotte yet. What happens is Sharpton and Jackson and the like, they won't show up until afterward. And then for some reason, the local religious leaders in those communities will abdicate their responsibility and allow Sharpton and Jackson to take over. They'll make a lot of noise for the cameras and claim that things need to change. But the reason they're not there is because they know that their presence could actually make this worse. And deep down in, they all really know. They all ramble on about, we'll get justice. But they all really know if push really comes to shove. Riot is the next step up from riot is civil war. They don't have the gunships. That is, they don't have the armored vehicles. What's going to happen if this continues in this country and gets really out of hand is a lot of those people out there trying to burn their fellow man and loot those stores are going to end up dead beneath tracks, big, heavy tracks that have to hold up big, heavy armored vehicles. That's why they're not there right now. They'll show up in the aftermath because they feel they can profit from it. Meanwhile, one of the most interesting comments I've heard so far, and it's unrelated to these two stories because he was speaking over the weekend on another matter, but he was also speaking about violence. Louis Farrakhan, who was a black nationalist leader and would prefer that they have a separate country and live apart from everyone else, he is a member of the Nation of Islam. Why he was speaking at a Baptist church in Washington is beyond me, but take a listen. He's complaining about his home city of Chicago. And he does not put the blame at the feet of the white man. He says, everyone wants to complain about Donald Trump. He says, let Trump do what he does, but somebody else is the problem here.
Let the man do if he get in what he want. Because he's not destroying your legacy. If your legacy is bound up in an Affordable Care Act that only affects a few million people and they're trying to make it really difficult for those of us who signed up, that's not your legacy. But I just want to tell you, Mr. President, you from Chicago and so am I. I go out in the street with the people. I visited the worst neighborhoods. I talked to the gangs. And while I was out there talking to them, they said, Farrakhan, the president ain't never come. Could you get him to come and look after us? There's your legacy, Mr. President. It's in the street with your suffering people, Mr. President. And if you can't go and see about them, then don't worry about your legacy. Because the white people that you've served so well, they'll preserve your legacy. The hell they will. But you didn't earn your legacy with us.
I was listening to that and I was thinking that one presidential candidate yesterday managed to sound more liberal than Farrakhan. It's odd that he would sound, let's say, more conservative than she would. Can we take a listen for a moment and see what she had to say about Tulsa and Charlotte?
First, an unarmed man named Terrence Crutcher was shot and killed by a police officer in Tulsa. Then a man named Keith Lamont Scott was shot and killed by a police officer in Charlotte. I'm sending condolences and prayers to their families. I know a lot of you are as well. There is still much we don't know about what happened in both incidents, but we do know that we have 2 more names to add to a list of African Americans killed by police officers in these encounters. It's unbearable, and it needs to become intolerable.
Now, here's a question. Is she going to be offering condolences to the family of the fellow from Sudan who tried to chop up all of those people in St. Cloud? Because, of course, he happened to be shot by an off-duty officer. Maybe that's the difference, but the fact of the matter is, if these people are criminals and we're sending condolences, I guess you want to be compassionate to everybody who's lost a loved one. But the fact of the matter is, if the guy was a bad dude, and in Charlotte that apparently is clearly the case, then why do you stand there and make such pronouncements? And I'm telling you, if she wins this election, this mindset is going to continue in this country. And we're going to have to, for the next 4 years, and God help us, perhaps 8, deal with this march to anarchy that is currently going on. And people like her are going to be behind that in that situation. I would hope. I don't think there's too much of a worry in places like southern Idaho in these situations that anybody is going to go off the deep end and turn this into a blue state and vote for her. But folks, if you want to maintain at least some semblance of what we've had in this country, and a lot of that has to deal with the institutions we've got that have kept the peace, then you better sit down and call all of your friends around the country and say, whoa, wait a minute here. Bill Colley with you this morning on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. 53 right now. Actually, we have a very calm law enforcer in studio with us today, and he's going to be joining us on a couple of subjects, too, as well. Ken Menzel on the way from the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department. 20 minutes now after 8 o'clock.